Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anne-Sophie and this is episode 4 of the Candid Knitting. It's been a while, hasn't it? I did not have a lot of time for knitting in April because I spent most of that month in New York City visiting my partner who is living there this semester. And as you may know, there are lots of things to do in New York, and I spent most of my time doing those. And yeah, just a little amount of time knitting. After I upload this video, I'll be uploading a video with a little New York knitting vlog, which is mostly going to be a New York and Boston yarn store vlog because, as I said, not a lot of knitting was done. But I think that's going to be fun. I got a hold of some very cool and cute and pretty yarns. But I won't be talking about those as acquisitions here because I bought quite a lot and that would be taking up a lot of time in a podcast. So I thought, you know what? It's going to be a separate video. So there's not going to be a lot of acquisitions in this video. In terms of amount of finished objects and whips, and then I'm gonna get to talk about, it won't be very different from my past podcast episodes because I did have a lot of time to knit in May and April, so in terms of quantity, it's kind of the same as always, which is good. I did plan on filming a video or like a podcast episode sooner, but that didn't really work out because, well, I did film a podcast episode sooner than this. I've been filming podcast episodes for like 3 weeks, but things kept getting like messed up with either the video or the audio. Like some of my recordings have just no audio at all, and it was very frustrating, but I'm hoping this one works out, and yeah, we'll see. All right, so let's get into it. What I'm wearing today is essentially my first finished object. The time I did spend knitting in New York, I mostly spent knitting on this guy, so it's now like my little New York City sweater. It fit in perfectly with like the cherry blossoms because it's cherry blossom season. So it was really fun to be knitting on that over there. Even though most of my knitting happened on my flights to and from New York. Well, by the time I'm filming this, I've actually managed to finish it because I started this in early April. And the weather is cold enough here in Belgium for me to be able to wear it. This is my Frankie Genser, which is a pattern by sandnes. It's part of the Soft for Women booklet that includes like the most popular sandnes patterns, I would say, like the Guernsey Genser, the Frankie Genser, the Amy Slipover, and so on. I quite enjoyed knitting this. I knitted up in one of the two suggested yarns, so they have the Frankie Genser with two different gauges. One of them suits their cos or cos yarn quality, and the other one suits their brushed alpaca yarn quality. I used the cos yarn, which has like a nylon chain through which alpaca fibers are blown. It hasn't really picked up on camera very well so far. Don't think it's gonna. But just if you see like tiny speckles or white reflections on this, it's because it has a white nylon chain with pink fluffy alpaca fibers blown throughout it. Well, you can see it a bit better like this. This is her. It's beautiful. I used the color 4333 and I think it's stunning. So the way this sweater is constructed is actually pretty cool. It's a saddle shoulder that then goes into a compound type raglan, so you don't distribute your increases evenly among the sleeves and the body. Well, I think it's more interesting to knit than traditional raglan, which I like. I don't think, however, that it suits me as well as a traditional raglan does, but that might also be due to the fact that it is so oversized. I knit the smallest of the 3 sizes they offer, and I mean, it's kind of big, like kind of really big. And the raglan is just so deep. I'd say too deep, because if you hold your arms like this, then you just get this straight fold line, which I feel kind of looks a tiny bit weird. Like the part where you pick up stitches for the underarm is like so close to my elbow, and it feels off. Same goes for the back. It doesn't include shirtwaist, I think, and I feel like you can really see it when you wear it because it kind of sits strangely at the back of the neck. And also here, it bunches up quite a bit. I try to block that out as much as possible. You can't like this, like you can't see it sometimes depending on my movements. But I love the feeling of this yarn so much, and I love the coziness of it so much that I'm actually not too mad about it. I do think if I would have knit this in a different yarn, in a different color, I would probably not have liked this sweater as much because of the construction. I didn't enjoy knitting it too much either because of the heaps and heaps of half-twisted rib. If you don't know what half-twisted rib is, to get this look, essentially, you twist your knit stitches, but not your purl stitches. So as you can see here, the purl stitches on the wrong side just look like normal knit stitches. But it takes quite a long time because, as you see, it's quite tight. So you need a lot more rows to get to the same length. And it was tedious. It wasn't fun. I was very happy when it ended. And I also don't particularly enjoy how the Italian cast off looks with twisted rib. I don't know. It has like this weird dent. Yeah, this weird dent almost. I also much prefer tubular cast off over an Italian one because it's essentially the same sewn bind off, but you start off the bind off by doing 2 rows of double knitting, which makes it a bit more tight and doesn't have it like flare out or lose its straight shape like this sleeve started doing. But yeah, apart from the no short rows and the very deep raglan and the not liking the twisted rib part of the knitting process, I actually really love this sweater. The color is what makes me love this sweater the most. I don't think I've ever used a yarn color that suits me as well as this one does. It just feels like me. I put this on and I just thought, ah, this is perfect. I have no words. It's beautiful. It's amazing. So my spring plans of knitting sweaters really paid off quite well because I've been able to wear them down to like the 1st of June, which is cool. Talking about spring plans and sweaters, you might remember my finished object from the last episode, which was my sweater number 14 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, the V-neck version, which I knit up with a hand-dyed yarn and then 2 strands of filcolana tilia mohair in the natural white colorway. I was not very happy about it until I blocked it. And you've not seen it blocked, so let me just go get that for you. So here she is. This is her. She's very drapey. She blocked stunningly. Yeah, I lots of people commented on my video and even went to Instagram to DM me about me being crazy, saying that I was considering frogging this because I wasn't exactly happy about it. part of the reason why I wasn't happy about it was because I lost yarn chicken, so I had to shorten the ribbing on the body, and also because I forgot to alternate skeins with the hand dyed yarn. So you kind of see where I switched hanks, because this sleeve, for example, has like lots of stripes. The top of the body, or like the yoke, has mostly speckles, and then half of this sleeve is speckled and half of it is kind of striped. I don't know what I was on about. I was editing the video and I was just thinking, oh, Sophie, stop being such a perfectionist. But by then, I wasn't going to refilm it and be less of a whining baby. I feel really happy now knowing that people are going to call me out when I say stupid stuff, like that I was going to frog this, because honestly, she's beautiful. She's stunning. I have no bad word to say about it. I'm not bothered by the pooling or like the striping at all anymore. You really can't see it, especially now that it's blocked. Yeah. Thanks for calling me out though. I appreciate you all. But yeah, so this sweater, she became very drapey with blocking. The sleeves are a bit too long, but I don't mind it because it's quite cozy. The only thing I don't like about the finished fit of this sweater is the way the neckline can start sagging a little bit. So I'm going to see if I can fix that by inserting a bit of a clear elastic. I won't go into the details of the sweater too much. It's just a simple drop shoulder, and it has 2x2 ribbing details, a very deep V-neck, and I knit it way more cropped than it has to be. It's at a very big gauge. I think it's knit up on like 6mm needles. I used 5.5mm needles because I'm a loose knitter, and it was quick. It was fun. I love it. Yeah. For more information, check out my previous video or my previous podcast. No, I actually think that was my previous video. Nice. Editing on Sophie here. I completely forgot to talk about my cousin's storm sweater. I finally managed to finish it after months and months of agony. This is the most laborious knit I've ever made. I knit him a storm sweater man in drops Lima in the color khaki. I've been talking about it in all of my past podcast episodes, so if you want more information, go check out those. But so I finally finished it, and I don't know if you remember, but I had to add extra length to it because he thought it was too short. I did that, and then when he tried it on after blocking, it had grown so much that I had to spend half of our family weekend like sitting on the floor and cutting out entire rows of the bottom part of the sweater and grafting it back together. It was a disaster. It was so devastating. He didn't make me do it for the sleeves. He's rolling those up, but it looks a lot better now. And he was so happy with it. He made a little jump, and he did a little dancey dance. I'll add in some footage of me wearing the long version of the sweater before blocking and wearing it after blocking, so you can see the difference with how much this thing grew. I did not take into account how much the drops Lima would be growing, so it's maybe interesting to know if you're planning on using drops Lima for a large project in the future. And then I also have a fun little video of him wearing his sweater and doing a little catwalk in the orange LED light hallway of the place we were staying for our family trip. That's it for finished objects for today. I'm not sure whether I had started this during my last podcast. I do think I had started this. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this quite well, but this is where I'm at for my modified version of the Birkin polo. She's a mess. I am not enjoying this. No. So, yeah, essentially, this is the Birkin polo pattern, which is a 2x2 ribbed negative ease polo with long sleeves. And I am modifying it to essentially knit my Eras Tour outfit, because I'm going to make it look almost exactly like a polo Taylor Swift wore for the Midnight's photo shoot. And my best friend who crochets is knitting the Midnight's crochet pink and orange top. And then she's crocheting the Midnight's top. And then for her husband, who's joining us to the Arista in Amsterdam, she's knitting a sweater similar to the like striped blue, yellow, and red sweater that Taylor Swift wears on the 1989 Taylor's version cover photo shoot. So we're all going to be wearing like handmade things. Wait, did I say knitting again? She doesn't knit, she crochets, but I'm knitting. I don't crochet. But so yeah, I modified the pattern to have a different stitch pattern, which I tested out several stitch patterns, and what looked the best was this repeat of also 4 stitches, because 2 by 2 ribbing is 4 stitches, so I thought I'd make it easy on myself. And I'm doing 1 slip stitch and 3 garter stitches. I did some modifications to the stitch counts to make sure that the increases looked neat and always happened along a slip stitch. More information on that can be found on my Ravelry projects page, like if you want to know the exact stitch count modifications, although I didn't have to change too much. Now, once you finish the back panel, it's a drop shoulder, so you knit the back panel first with increases along the shoulder line, and then you pick up for the front panels, you knit those separately with increases and decreases for the neckline and the arms. Yeah, that's what you get. And then once you finish both those front panels, you connect by the underarms, and you knit a few more rows back and forth. And then before you connect the front, you start the button bands. So that's why it's such a mess at this point, because you essentially leave your stitches on the 3mm needle on which you're knitting the body, which you can see here. Ta-da! The body. So I'm leaving those on hold, and then you start to knit the double knitting on the button bands first. So you do this side, and you do this side, and you do a Turkish cast on, which I'd never done before, but is pretty straightforward, even though I had to restart like multiple times, because you have to start on the hardest side. And usually when you're doing attached double knitting, you knit 2 together through the back loop to knit the double knitting together with your stitches. Well, what you have to do on one of the sides here is actually transfer one of the picked up stitches or the picked up stitch that you need to knit together with your double knitting to your left needle, and then you knit them together. And I couldn't figure that out for the life of me, because you do that before you then knit the right side of the button band. Part of the reason I couldn't figure that out for the life of me was because I was trying to figure this out while I was on family weekend. It was very busy, it was very late. Probably not a pattern issue, but more of a me issue, and a time when I decided I was trying this issue. But it worked out. I managed. I think it looks quite alright. I'm not the neatest double knitting knitter. I always have like this bit of a wonky edge, but it tends to block out quite nicely. So I think it's looking quite good. But so you start by knitting the button bands, you do the Turkish cast on, so that probably once you connect the 2 fronts, you can knit these stitches together to make these button bands overlap perfectly. And then once you've done that, you pick up stitches along the collar, and you do double knitting on the collar, and you knit those in extension of the button band stitches you have here. This is where it's getting even less fun, because they make you do short rows, and you can't really see it too well here, but my short rows don't really look too neat. I have quite some holes, like over here. It's kind of messy. Well, probably because knitting short rows in double knitting is not something I've done before. I was also quite tired, and it was late at night again. Note to self, don't try new techniques late at night when you can't sleep. But yeah, you know what? I don't mind that not looking great because it's going to be a folded collar anyway, right? So you're not gonna see that. What I am worried you're gonna see is the issues I have here at the back of the collar. So I picked up every stitch along the back of the collar as suggested, but I ended up having like 10 stitches less than I was supposed to. And I thought it was going to be fine because I knit all of the stitches. So usually in my experience, things don't end up bunching up. I think I can't say that any longer. And the problem here is if I'm stretching it, the double knitting starts looking more like ribbing, which I'm not happy about. But, you know, I'm not worried enough about this to redo it because as you see, I have like 2.5 to 3 centimeters of the collar done already on 2.5 millimeter needles in double knitting. I'm not going to redo that. I'm definitely not going to redo those short rows. So I'm just going to hope it doesn't look too bad and hope that the collar being folded fixes it. And if I don't wear this with my hair up, it'll be fine as well because my hair will be falling over it. So no one's going to know and no one's going to see that. Yay! But yeah, so I've been hating my life knitting this double knitted collar. It's taking ages. Everything is getting very messy with my little ball. Center pulling with this yarn isn't a great idea, just to let you know. I usually am a center puller. I'm pro center pulling, not with this yarn. Oh my god, I haven't said which yarn I'm using yet and who the pattern is by. Alright. So this pattern, the Birkin polo pattern, is actually by Pendlersneak, and the suggested yarn is Gepard Garn Cotton Wool 3. It looks like this when it's not an absolute mess. I'm using the color 712, which is a beautiful soft icy blue. Yeah. What I like about this yarn is that it's a 50% cotton, 50% wool combination. And you can kind of see it in the way it's spun, which I quite enjoy. I was a bit apprehensive to buy a cotton wool yarn because I've worked with Knitting for Olive cotton merino in the past, which is a 70% cotton and 30% wool yarn, which I know everyone loves, but I hated working with because I knit the square neck camisole in that yarn, which is also a 2x2 ribbed pattern, and it just ended up looking really wonky. My ribbing was so uneven, cotton and tension doesn't really work out for me ever. But you know what? I decided to give this one a try anyway because it looked really nice in the sample, and I figured, you know, the 50-50 divide between wool and cotton might actually make it look nicer and make the fabric fold more nicely as well. Because with the square neck camisole, I ended up actually putting it in the washing machine, not even bothering to be scared about whether it was going to felt or not, just because I was going so crazy by how like floppy it was getting. If I'm ever knitting something again in that yarn, I'm planning to, but stockinette, I'll be knitting a size smaller than recommended. Yeah, but so with this one, I decided to give it a shot. It's like half as expensive as cotton merino by Knitting for Olive as well, and so far, I love it. I love this so, so much. The knitting experience is amazing. Up until the double knitting, I didn't have any issue with splitting or whatsoever. It's a bit thicker than the cotton merino because Knitting for Olive is like a very light fingering weight always, and this is a bit more, you know, a bit more, yeah, thick. I don't know, it's thicker. The fabric you get is just a bit more dense. That's the word. So the fabric you get with this one is like slightly more dense, which I really enjoy. I am scared it's going to be a bit too hot to wear in the summer to a stadium show, but that's going to depend on the weather, and you can never really know what the weather is going to be like at a show in the summer, so you know what? It'll be fine. I'll bring like a regular tank top just in case I sweat my ass off in the polo. So I'm not gonna knit it with long sleeves because the Taylor Swift polo is short sleeved, so that's gonna, well, make it take less time for me, have me do less purling in the round, which I mean I'm gonna enjoy a lot. But yeah, I'll be able to compare the cotton merino to the cotton wool a bit more once I finally finish this and get to wear it. I have 30 more days to finish this. Help. But yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna stay focused. We'll get there. My next whip is a fully new one. I finally started working on the Maren tee. So the Maren tee is a pattern by Morika Knit. It is also a polo, and it's knit in a boucle. Not very springy, not very summery. I know, but I want to knit this so bad, and I want to use this yarn so bad that I don't care. This is the one of the recommended yarns. So she either suggests a silk mohair, a double, I think, or this Isogir boucle, which is made up out of 100% alpaca fibers, and just gorgeous. It's really nice. It has been hurting. It has been hurting my hands just a tiny bit because it is quite, sturdy. You need to pull on it a tiny little bit, but that's mostly because I've been doing a double knit collar for this as well. So, woo! Oh my god, I just put this down on my cat's like carton scratchy thing. There's like carton all over it. You don't want that. But so I've been knitting on a collar in double knitting, so that might actually be why it's been pulling so much, because the way this is constructed is you start off by knitting just a stockinette strip that you start knitting through Judy's Magic Cast On, which you then fold double to make like the collar edge. You knit one of the rows with like a very thin lacy contrast color yarn to know where you have to pick up for the collar, which is then actually done in double knitting and with short rows and increases. I stopped halfway through a row because I got so sick of it. But even though it's very tiresome and tedious, I think increases look pretty neat. The short rows on this one actually look fine, which I mostly attribute to the boucle yarn hiding any issues. I'm very excited to continue knitting on this, but I'm afraid that we'll have to wait until I finish this guy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit through these double knitted collars just a little longer and then finish the body of my Eras Tour outfit, and only once I finish that I can start thinking of actual summer tops and projects, which will be excited and which I am looking forward to so much. So as I said, most of my acquisitions were made in New York yarn stores, but I do have one acquisition that I can cover here. No, two, which is, first of all, my new little project bag. It's so cute. This is one of the new spring baggies they're selling at this, I think it's a Dutch store that has stores in Netherlands, Belgium, and I think Germany also, called Dille en Camille. And they have this spring line with all of these wildflower themed thingies. I bought a cookie jar, a pencil case, the tiny version of this, and then like the bigger version of this to hold small projects like socks or hats if I want to take this with me when I'm commuting or going somewhere. I don't know why I keep opening and closing it. It's so cute. It's so pretty. It's really making me happy. It's super cheap. I think I paid like not even €3 for this. Strong, strong recommend. I also bought like a Christmassy version around Christmas or like in winter time. I'm excited to see whether they come out with new ones for summer or fall, because I will definitely be buying them because they're one, super cheap, and two, these little baggies are really helping me keep track of my whips by having like different whips in every project bag. And I think that's also going to help me not cast on new things when I still have other things to finish, which has notoriously been a huge problem for me, but let's not elaborate on that. My second acquisition I made before I went to New York actually. I bought this Isogid Alpaca 1 in the dark blue navy colorway. It's a pretty vibrant navy. I don't think it's coming off as vibrant on screen as it is in real life. But I bought this, 3 skeins of this. It's a lace weight alpaca, which can be used as like a mohair substitute. I bought this to hold with my Gepard Woolia, and the Woolia is kind of it's called anthracite, the color, and it's more of a dark gray leaning navy than an actual navy. And on the website where I bought this looked like an anthracite. It clearly is not. I tried holding them together. They didn't look very nice together. So I'm going to have to find a different yarn to use this with. But I don't mind. There's plenty of options. I could use like an Isogid Jensen to have exactly the same color and have it be a perfect color match. And it's something I could buy the Alpaca 2 and hold it together with this alpaca yarn. I could even buy a mohair and hold it with one strand of alpaca to make like a blouse type situation, maybe another maren tee, maybe a cumulus blouse. I don't know. I could even hold this double. Anyway, there's plenty of options to use this. I'm just not exactly sure what I'll be using it for yet, but it's one of those nice things to just have in your stash. All right, I think that's everything for today. I hope to see you soon in my next video where I will finally be covering my New York yarn shopping adventures. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!